All righty, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well this Tuesday night. I'm sure you're going to have that song stuck in your head for the next 12 hours, which is okay because it's the final countdown. We are excited on this special Tuesday night bonus session with our good buddy George Antone from Note Camp 6.0. Absolutely jacked up because I know you're going to have some content, you're going to have some actions, and you're going to be making some profits with Mr. George Antone tonight. What is going on, my brother from another mother? How you doing?
I love your music, man. How are you doing?
I'm pumped now. I'm a little sleep deprived and delirious in the afternoon, but I am jacked up, ready to rock and roll. It's time to get the music rocking and get the energy level up. Security was knocking on my door. Can you turn your music down? I'm like, F security. I'm the only one in the building.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Well, hey, happy early Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
You got some big plans with the family?
Yep. The whole family thing, in-laws, everybody. We're going to have, whatever, like 25, 30 people in one place.
Holy cow. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Are you going to be hiding out the office then? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly correct. How about you?
We have some friends flying in tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing all the cooking, so it'll be just like 4 or 5 of us. So we have gone the vegetarian lifestyle for the most part the last 3 months, and so
really,
yes, really, I'm. I know I love my ribeyes, but ribeyes do not love me anymore. So trying to make that final push where we're trying to get health wise, and it's not been too big a difference because I like my vegetables anyway. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Good stuff. But it's little changes each day to help me get where I want to be. You know what I mean? Little changes each day.
Yes, you know what? And that's not an easy change. So I commend you, man. That's awesome.
Trying to. But why don't we say we get rocking and rolling into some little changes that people can take advantage of, little things that can build big, beautiful, stress-free wealth in 6 hours or less. I love that title of the discussion.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and start. Let's see here.
You feeling better, by the way?
Feeling much better. Thank you for that. I really appreciate you helping on that. So no can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Beautiful.
Perfect. So Scott, again, thanks for allowing me to share this with everyone. I've been super excited about a lot of the results we're seeing out there. So with that, welcome everyone. And the topic for tonight's presentation is stress-free wealth in 6 hours or less per month using a completely new paradigm. So with that, let me start with how did this come about? Because this came in an interesting way. So let me share with you the story how this thing came about. So I was invited to speak in Palm Springs many years ago, and when I was done, I got off the stage, and a lady approached me and asked me a very interesting question. And here's the question. She said, "Is there a way to build financial security without investing in stocks, bonds, or real estate, or even sell anything or start a business?" So my first reaction was I laughed, thinking she was joking, laughing with her. And the expression on her face showed a completely different story. On her face, and she was in her early 60s, what I saw on her face was complete fear, desperation, almost tears in her eyes. And I realized really quickly she was being absolutely very serious. And so I decided to do something about this and research if it's possible to even build something like that, build wealth using or financial security without doing any of this stuff. And being a very skeptical person and being someone who's developed a lot of software for people around the world, which I'll talk about here in a minute, I was very curious about, is this even possible? And sure enough, I found something fascinating, and I started realizing it doesn't have a name. And we've all seen bits and pieces of this stuff, but we never categorize it as anything. And so what I did was I just called it hacking finance, and you'll see why here in a few minutes. And that's what our topic for today. And this is what I discovered, and I want to share it with everyone. And here's what it boils down to. Now, keep in mind, I am the biggest skeptic out there, and I've developed a lot of software for people that are using out there. And so when people make claims, I'm very skeptical. But I want to share with you what this boils down to. In four things. One is 6 hours per month. Now, the 6 hours can be broken up into 30-minute segments. So it's not one 6 hour straight, but it's broken up as a total of 6 hours. The second thing is this can be implemented one time and placed on autopilot, and let these strategies or hacking finance work for you and build your wealth. You're going to see here in a minute. Third is no investing needed. Now, I'm a big proponent of investing. I'm always talking to people about make sure you learn how to invest and all that stuff. But this doesn't require investing. It will, as you'll find out later, enhance any investing you might be doing, but it's not required. And finally, it's low risk. Now, if you look at everything on the screen here, that's what it really boils down to. And anyone that's like me, skeptical, is going to say this is way too good to be true. And that's exactly why I wanted to share this topic with you and deep dive into some numbers here and talk about some numbers and things like this. So that's the objective of this training. It's really simply to open your eyes to this new paradigm that I'm talking about that can help build financial security without making risky investments. Okay, so with that, let's just share really quickly about my background, and then I'm going to deep dive into the content here. And I'm going to ask you to also, for the people that have calculators with them, get a calculator ready, because we're going to be diving into numbers. And I'm going to be talking about what you can do tomorrow morning on Wednesday to start implementing some of this information. So a little bit of my background, who am I and why should you listen to me? So really quickly, my background, I used to work in technology, in software. As I used to be a software developer and engineer. And I worked for a number of companies, including Intuit, makers of Quicken. In fact, I worked on Quicken and a number of other products they have. Also worked at Microsoft. Also worked at a number of other software companies in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. And in 2001, I walked away from that, an incredible career at the time, and decided to get into real estate investments. And so what I started doing in real estate in 2001 was buying apartment buildings, bought quite a bit of buildings, residential properties, and private money lending, and running funds. And I got to a point where I was financially secure by 2005 or so. And so that is, from technology to real estate. I've also raised tens of millions of dollars for things from not just real estate investments, but businesses, infomercials, you name it, I've raised money for it. I've raised quite a bit of money. And I'm considered the thought leader in the investing and finance space. A little bit more about my background too. I've written 3 best-selling books on finance, on topic of finance and investing. I've also been a radio host on the Wall Street Radio Network. I've also been a developer, again, like I mentioned, on the world's #1 personal finance software, Quicken and Quicken Financial Planner, and again, a number of other Intuit products. And I'm also the founder of the largest network of private lenders in the country and in the world, really. So why should you listen to me? I'll just tell you this. All of that stuff doesn't matter. What really matters is that this information I'm going to share with you today can have a significant impact on you and your family's wealth. Okay, so that's a little bit my background, and I want you to focus on how you can use this information today. Now, let's dive into the agenda for this training, and this is the agenda here. I'm going to start with sort of tapping into new possibilities. I'm going to talk about what that means and start shifting the way you think. And I'm going to talk about this new paradigm that I call hacking finance, and talk about what exactly is it. And then I'm going to give you an example that you can implement tomorrow morning or Monday, and how this would be placed on autopilot and can increase your net worth by $100,000 or more in 10 years or less. In fact, we have a lot of students doing this in 2-3 years. And all this is done again, the first 6 hours. And the 6 hours means learning and implementation, total of 6 hours. So with that, I'm going to be giving you very specific stuff here. Make sure you write it down, and make sure you have your calculators for those people that are like me, that are very, very skeptical. So I'll be giving you some formulas and some stuff to calculate. So with that, let's talk about this first section, tapping into new possibilities. So what I want you to do is, we're going to be using this picture here of these different cubes, and each cube here represents a strategy. So we're going to take one strategy and we're going to sort of deep dive into it. But before we do that, let me run a few things by you to think about and start getting you to think differently. So imagine we take one strategy and we blow it up. And inside that strategy, it teaches you, this one strategy here we picked is generates $4,000 within 12 months. Let's just say, I'm making this the numbers up here. Let's just say this generates $4,000 within 12 months. Would you invest $2,000 to have this return? And obviously the answer is absolutely 100% for most people, right? The second one, let's just say we take another one and we open it and it says it generates $4,000, not one time, but every single year. Would you invest $2,000 to have this return? So the answer is obviously. Let's just say we take another strategy on another one of those cubes and we open it up and we find out that it teaches us, or it helps us to generate $10,000 per year every year. Would you invest $2,000 to have this return? The answer is obviously. What if it generates $100,000 within 10 years? Again, would you invest $2,000 to have something that would generate $100,000 within 10 years? Now keep this in mind, because this is the one I'm going to be sharing with you here in a minute, okay? The answer is obviously. What if it generates a lifetime of tax-free income starting in 15 years from now? Now you might be thinking, why 15 years? What if I told you that between now and next 15 years, you can screw up completely, but you know you have tax-free income for life beyond that 15 years? You know you have a plan B automatically in place. Would you invest $2,000 to have this return? And most people are going to say, yes, it makes so much sense. Now, here's what's interesting. How about all of these strategies for $2,000? I'm trying to get you to think differently here, and here's why. Do you realize that these strategies are built into the financial system for all of us to use? And what I'm going to be doing here tonight is deep dive into one of them, and that is the $100,000 within 10 years. I'm going to show you how to implement it, and anyone can implement this. Again, we're going to cover one of those tonight, and that's the $100,000 within 10 years. Again, I have a lot of students doing it in 3, 4, 5 years. We had one doctor do it in do $300,000 in 2 years. Okay. Again, this is one-time implementation, and everything is on autopilot. So with that, let's dive into what's this paradigm here that we're talking about called hacking finance, and then we'll talk about one example, very specific example, and then we'll talk about higher level other examples of what is possible in this. Give us more examples. So right now, let's start with, what is this thing called, hacking finance? What's this new paradigm? So if you look at every single strategy out there on building wealth, it can be placed into one of 3 buckets: either trading, like trading currencies and stocks and stuff like that; investing, it could be notes, it could be real estate, whatever investing, stocks as well; or it could be saving, and we'll talk about that. And these are the 3 traditional methods. Again, everything out there can be placed into one of those 3 buckets. It turns out there's this 4th bucket, and that's what we're talking about tonight. And this is what I'm going to be talking about, is hacking finance, this completely new method here. So let's look at the traditional methods, and let's just look at the 4th method here and compare them, just so we have an idea how it's different than everything else. So let's start with trading. Now, I'm a proponent of everything here, but it's really important to point out the pros and cons of everything. So for trading, we all know the pros for all of these things is potential upside. Let's talk about the challenges with this type of wealth building strategy. With trading, it's what's called a zero-sum game. That means someone has to lose for someone to win. And wealth is being transferred back and forth in trading. In other words, trading can be very risky because you're essentially competing with some of the best people out there. And so trading things like currencies and stocks or whatever it is can be risky and can take years and years and years to master before you really get to a point where you can really play a bigger game. Okay, so that's trading, the trading bucket. Investing. Now, everyone knows I'm a huge proponent of investing. I will always invest. I love investing. But we also know that you can lose money with investing, and it's going to take you years to master any specific asset. Again, I'm a big proponent of investing here, but it's really important to be aware of the risks out there and the time commitment to really master any asset, any one asset. The next one is saving, and we've all heard of people that are that save, let's just say, half their income, and they live very frugally, which is, again, I'm a big proponent of saving, but that lifestyle isn't necessarily rewarding. And again, I don't have anything against it. I'm just saying it's a lifetime commitment of saving, saving, saving in order to be able to get to a point where you can start enjoying life. And again, this is another way of building wealth that is out that people are talking about. Again, I'm a proponent of all of these things, but all three require a lifetime commitment of learning and implementation. So let's talk about this other way called hacking finance. Now, on the next slide, I'm gonna explain what hacking finance is. But for now, what I want you to realize is this: hacking finance is a completely new method that can stand on its own. But the best part of it is that it can, used with the other traditional methods, enhance all the returns. So, for example, if I was to buy an apartment building pays you about 12% cash-on-cash return, 10 to 12% depending on a number of things. When you use hacking finance with this kind of return, it can enhance those yields to 13, 14, 15, 16, 17% on a big apartment building. So think about a big building with 100 units, 300 units, whatever it is. You're generating 12% cash-on-cash return, of which you have to split with your investors. Now, I've bought a lot of buildings, and I can tell you your yield after, I don't want to say anything bad here, but your numbers aren't as big as you might think because you're having to split a lot of things. But let's just say you add hacking finance to this, it will increase your yield significantly just by adding these interesting tweaks here we're going to talk about. So with that, let's talk about what exactly is this new method called hacking finance. So let me share with you a story that that happened to me. When I was a teenager, my dad went out and bought me a computer, and that computer was a Spectrum Sinclair Sinclair Spectrum for anyone that remembers these things. And he bought me a book with it, and the book was how to program this thing in assembly language, or what's called machine code back then. But it's essentially how to program it the most difficult way, because there's easier way to program these things. And he didn't know any better. He just bought me this book. And so I started learning how to push the system, meaning the computer, to its limits to create games. Now, the problem with the term hacking in the media right now is that everyone makes it sound like it's a bad thing. Hacking, we all know people are like bad people, or hacking is bad or whatever, but I'm just showing you here from my perspective what hacking in the computer is learning how it works in such a way that you completely understand the system and you're pushing the system to its limits. Out of that, I was able to do some amazing games and a very advanced applications or programs on this one computer, because I learned how the system works. Now, out of that, a number of companies started wanting to hire me. And out of that came a whole bunch of applications that I worked on that has impacted people around the world. For example, I've worked on things like Quicken. Quicken is being used, the number one application out there, was at one point, hundreds of millions of copies out there. Quicken Financial Planner, the game SimCity online that I worked on. I worked at Microsoft on a number of applications, including Windows. And so people out there have benefited from my curiosity of this system, pushing the system to its limit. And that's what hacking to me means. It's study the system, understand how it works, and ask yourself, how can I make it work and do things I want it to do? In this case, games and advanced applications. And so hacking finance to me is the same exact thing. We're studying how the financial system works, understanding how the system works, and making it and asking the questions, how can we make it work for us instead of against us? Now, anyone that's listening to this knows the system is set up to move us backwards with things like inflation and taxes and debt and all that stuff. And the question is, how do we make that work for us? And to me, that is hacking finance. So what if I told you, you can go down to your local bank and do 1, 2, 3, and you can turn the whole thing, the whole financial system to work for you? I know how that sounds. It sounds crazy, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's what I want to share this with you, because it's fascinating things we can all do at our local bank and make the system work for us. So we've all heard of certain martial arts where they say use your opponent's weight and size and speed against them. This is the same thing with hacking finance. We're going to turn the whole system, this big giant system, financial system, and make it work for us. We're going to use its weight and its size to work for us. So with that, we all know the financial system is wired against us, and the result of that is we have to work harder and harder and harder and longer hours just to barely keep up. And every year, for example, inflation goes up. That means we have to work for weeks every year for free just because inflation went up. Okay, same thing with debt, same thing with taxes, all that stuff. So it turns out that we can make the financial system work for us by understanding it and by tweaking it and by hacking the finance to make it work for us. And that's exactly what I'm going to be covering and opening your eyes to tonight. And anyone can use these shortcuts, we call them shortcuts, legally, okay, this is all legal stuff, to significantly impact your financial well-being. Now, let me give you a warning, because this is one of those things where you have to know ahead of time. And we've all heard the expression, it's easier said than done. And we've all seen a lot of things out there where you go listen to something, it's easier said than done. When we go out to try to implement it, it's just completely, it's not the easiest thing. Now, in this scenario, it's actually completely opposite. It's easier done than said. So what do I mean by that? At the end of this presentation, I will tell you, go down to your local bank and do 1, 2, 3. And you're going to say, I get that. That's the easy part. But why does it work? And that's where it gets into interesting parts, because now I have to explain the math. And this is, we're pushing the limit of the system. And you have to understand how the system works and how to make it work for us. And that's what we're going to be deep diving into. Some of the stuff here. You'll find out at the end. I'm telling you, go down to your local bank, do 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to try to explain the math. And I'm going to be giving you some math here. But once you understand the math, you'll see why it works so elegantly. Now, for some people, they don't want to know the numbers, and that's fine. I personally am extremely skeptical, and so that's why I deep dive into numbers. I want to share with the people that are like me to see what I see and get excited about some of the stuff we're doing here. So with that warning, okay, we're going to deep dive, continue here, and we're going to dive into the first example, or the only big example we're going to talk about tonight. And I'll give you some other examples later here, high level, but I want to deep dive into this one financial shortcut here and show you how this is it works, but also how it can be used with your note investing, because it's, again, for those people that do note investing. So let's dive into this example of a 6-figure financial shortcut. Again, I'm going to be giving some numbers here, and this is just for illustration purposes only. So with that, let's focus on one of many, many, many shortcuts out there. There are tons and tons of shortcuts. I'm going to geek out on one of them right now. So let's start with the tale of 2 neighbors. The first one is regular Rob, and the next one I should have changed that to Smart Scott, but it's too late now. Smart Sam.
Flattery will get you everywhere, my friend.
I should have changed that.
Or you gotta put Gorgeous George.
So with that, so these two neighbors, obviously they're neighbors that live next to each other. So you see they each have their own home next to each other. And they both have the same identical job. In fact, they go together every day to work. And they have the same exact income. And they're both homeowners, obviously. And they have the same number of kids, the same age. In fact, their kids are named the same thing. And they have the same bank that they use. And they have the same exact mortgage with the same terms, 30-year mortgage, $300,000 in this example. So what happens is they both get paid on the same day. They walk down to their bank and they deposit their paycheck in their corresponding accounts. The only thing is that Smart Sam uses one single and very simple shortcut. All he does, and I'm starting here at high level, and I'm going to start deep diving into the numbers here. Again, I'm just covering one shortcut out of many here. He simply transfers his paycheck from his checking account into a line of credit that he set up with his bank, and he uses that to pay his bills. Okay, now, again, I'm starting high level. I'm going to start going into more detail here in a minute. So after 10 years, Smart Sam's net worth is 6 figures higher than regular Rob for that one simple and single tweak. Again, Smart Sam used one simple tweak. So let's keep going into that. Now, what I want you to think about here is the following. Let's just say you get paid on the first of the month. And let's just say, for example purposes, that you pay your bills in 3 weeks later, or it could be 2 weeks, it could be whatever it is, 10 days later, whatever it is. For this purposes, we're going to use 3 weeks. So you get paid on the first of the month. 3 weeks later, you pay your bills. And that happens every single month. So a month, let's just say, instead of saying a month, we're going to say 4 weeks. For 3 weeks out of 4 weeks, your money's sitting there waiting to pay bills. You pay it on the 3rd, and then you get paid again the following month on the 1st. Money's sitting there for 3 weeks. You pay your bills, and then following month. So what's happening here, for every month, your paycheck is deposited waiting to pay bills. In our example, 3 weeks. Okay, it's just sitting there doing nothing but waiting to pay bills. So imagine this over your career. Okay, every month, the same thing, the money is sitting there doing nothing. Now take a wild guess who's making money off of that. Obviously that's the bank, and it's using something called floats. Now floats are so powerful and so important for both insurance companies and banks, and anyone that knows what I'm talking about knows how powerful these things are. Floats are super powerful for financial institutions. The question is, why don't we use it to our advantage? Why don't we use it 3 weeks out of 4 weeks every single month to our advantage? But when you look at your 40-year career, that means the money's sitting there for 30 years out of 40 years. It's 3 out of 4 in our example. So imagine your money's doing there nothing but just waiting to pay bills for 30 whole years. So what is possible with this 30 years? What can we do, knowing that the money has to be used to pay bills and we cannot just invest it in anything? It has to be there, liquid, waiting to pay bills, but it has to work for us somehow and have us use the float instead of the banks use the float. So it turns out that there is a very powerful way to do that. And it's pure logic. So here's how we're going to make this work now. Again, keep in mind, the money has to be liquid to pay the bills, and it has to work for us, okay? So I'm going to walk you through a few scenarios here, and I want you to really think it through here. In scenario number 1, let's just say you get paid $5,000 and you have 2 buckets. Now, this is not a trick question. Okay, this is not a trick question. You have 2 buckets, one bucket that pays you 1%, and the second bucket pays you 6%. The question is, which bucket would you use? Where would you place your money? So the answer is obviously, again, it's not a trick question. We would place the 5,000 in the 6%. This is, again, the 5,000 is your take home. You'd place it in the 6% and obviously make more money with that. In scenario number 2, I'm going to change that a little bit, and I'm going to say the 1% now represents a checking account. So you're going to earn 1% interest if you're lucky. And out of that 1%, you have to pay taxes. So you're obviously earning a little bit less than 1% based on your tax bracket. The second bucket is a line of credit, and you have on this line of credit $8,000 of debt. Okay, so that means every year you're going to pay 6% on the $8,000 of debt. So the question is, where would you place the money? If you were to place the $5,000 in the line of credit, you would lower that debt, the $8,000, down to $3,000, and you'll only be paying 6% on $3,000, not on $8,000, because your money is sitting there until it pays the bills. So you're saving 6% in that time frame. Okay. So the question, which one is better? Getting paid 1% and paying tax on that, or saving 6% for that on the $5,000? So the answer is obviously saving 6%, because that's going to be a bigger savings than making 1% and paying taxes, because you still have to pay, in this case, the 6% on the 8,000. So overall, you're moving ahead. Now let's look at, in this case, do you still have access to the money if you were to place the money in the line of credit to pay the bills? The answer is absolutely, because the line of credit is liquid. You can always pay your bills from there. Or if you don't have checks for that line of credit, which a few institutions don't give you checks, most of them do, not all of them, you can always transfer it back to your checking account and pay your bills. So the answer is put your $5,000 in the line of credit and then pay your bills from there. And that's exactly what Smart Sam did. And that's his only tweak he did. He would deposit the money in his checking account and then move it over automatically to his line of credit. So let's continue now with scenario number 3. Now in scenario number 3, let's just say that 6% line of credit doesn't exist. There's no debt. It's there, but there is no debt on it. So you can now put $5,000 into the checking account and earn 1% and pay taxes on that. Or if you were to put the $5,000 on the line of credit, there is no debt, so you cannot save any money. So the answer is, what would you do? So obviously, putting the checking account would make more sense. However, what if you have debt somewhere else? What if you can transfer that debt into the line of credit? So let's try that. Let's just say in this example, you have a mortgage, and Smart Sam has a mortgage of $300,000. So he's going to write a check from the line of credit. He's going to write to the Bank of X. Bank of X is the one where he has his mortgage. And he's going to transfer, and notice how I'm using the words transfer, $20,000 or whatever the amount is, from one debt to another place. Okay, so he transferred $20,000 from the mortgage into the line of credit. Now he's still in the same amount, he's still in debt the same amount. It's still $300,000, except now he has $280,000 on the mortgage, and he transferred $20,000 into line of credit by simply writing a check. Now he has some debt on the line of credit. He can always put that money into the line of credit and then pay the bills. Is it liquid? The answer is yes. So what's the point to scenario number 3? Anytime you don't have a line of any debt on the line of credit, just transfer some debt in there. It could come from anywhere. In this example, mortgage. Okay. I'm going to show you later, if you have no debt, what you could do with this when it comes to note investing and what I have my students doing. So let's continue here. Now, at this point, I'm going to share with you some numbers that are incredible. But at this point, there are 3 main strategies that are working in the background that are so powerful in this example. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to deep dive into one of the 3, and it answers one of the common questions that everyone asks, which is, will this work if the interest rate on the line of credit is higher than the interest rate on the mortgage? One of the examples I've had people say is, what if the line of credit is 6% and the mortgage is, say, 4%? Will this work? And the answer is absolutely 100%. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to deep dive into this 1 out of 3 strategies and show you why this is so powerful and how it relates to not just paying off your debt super fast, but also how you could use it in either lending or buying notes or things like this. So let's dive into, again, this is all part of the same thing I'm talking about here. Let's look at the line of credit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you here a chart. Okay, and this chart shows you time down here, and this represents 30 days, and I'm just showing you day 1, day 2, day 3, 4, all the way to day 30 here, and the debt amount on this axis here, $8,000. And let's assume in our example that the line of credit has a 6% interest on the line of credit, just from our bucket, from the bucket example. Now let's look at how does this work internally. What's actually happening? Now, so on day 1, again, you'll see here, day 1, you owe $8,000 in our example. Now, if you were to put the $5,000 into the checking account, you would owe still $8,000 for 30 days on your line of credit. So let's go ahead and calculate the interest on this line of credit if you were to put the $5,000 in the checking account. So I'm going to take the first column, day 1 here. Okay, you see that I just highlighted this in orange, and we're going to calculate the interest only on 1 day. So we take the 6%. Again, I'm going into so much detail here, and I want you guys just to follow me here. Even if you're not good with numbers, just follow along, because I want to show you some magic here. And if you don't get this, just watch it again. Okay, so 6% line of credit. You take the 6%, which is for the whole year, and you divide by 365 days for the year. So now you have your daily interest is 6%, or whatever the line of credit interest is, divided by 365. And then you multiply by how much is owed on that day. In this example, $8,000. So your daily interest is 6% over 365 times $8,000. Now again, I tend to not show numbers on my presentations because I know it scares people, but here is my message to you. How would you feel if you woke up 10, 15, 20 years from now and look back and say, I wish I understood this. It would have made a big difference in my life. And this is that moment, folks. You're coming back to today, and you're going to realize that all these years that we've been using banks and checking accounts, we could have easily used this, but we can't go to the past. We can start from now. So just follow along with me and listen carefully, because I'm going to show you something that you can do tomorrow morning. And you can start doing something fascinating. You're going to see the numbers here in a second. It's going to blow your mind. So let's go back to this. Every day you calculate your 6% in this example for the whole year, divide by 365 times whatever is owed on that day, which is 8,000. So in this example, we have 6% divided by 365 times $8,000 for that 1 day, but we're using it for 30 days, and we have 8,000 owed on the whole 30 days. So what we pay in interest is $39.45. Okay, that's owed for the whole month. That's the interest you pay. Now, remember this number, and let's move on to the next example where we deposit the $5,000 into the line of credit instead of putting it in the checking account, and see what happens. So let's go ahead, and you have, again, we're going to look at 1 month. And the debt amount here, we're going to look at the separate individual days. And I'm showing you days 1 to 30 here. And on day 1, you owe $8,000. On day 2, you owe $3,000 because you deposit your $5,000 paycheck into the line of credit. So you lowered the amount that's owed down to $3,000. And let's just say that you pay all your bills on the 29th of this example, and then you go back up. So you paid all your bills, now you owe back the $8,000. Now I'm trying to simplify this here just to keep the numbers simple. So let's look at the interest. So on day 1, again, we took 6%, which is the annual interest rate for the line of credit. We divide by 365, gives us the daily interest rate times whatever is owed on that day, 8,000. That gives us $8,000. So because we have 2 of them, 2 days out of the month, we take that number, we multiply by 2 days, gives us $2.63 in interest only for the 2 days that have 8,000. But what about the $3,000? We deposit our paycheck in here, we lower the amount owed. So let's look at that. This 1 day here, day 2, what's owed is 6% divided by 365 times $3,000, because that's what's owed here. Now we have 28 days out of the month where the balance is $3,000. So let's go ahead and look at that. So now we have 6%, again, Don't let this scare you guys. I'm showing you the numbers because I'm the skeptical person here, and I want to show you what I see. I get so many people sending me strategies, and I think 99 out of 100, they don't work. But the 1 out of the 100 that work, I'm fascinated by, and I want to just share it with you guys. So stay with me here and realize this is the numbers, but you don't have to know the numbers. I want you to understand the numbers just so you see how powerful this is, because you can use it in new ways that I'm going to be sharing with you here in a minute. So out of that, we have $3,000 that's owed for 28 days. And what's so the interest for the 28 days is $13.81. And we also have the interest for 2 days, $2.63. So now I'm going to add these up and see what happens. So I'm going to do the same thing now and add them up. Let me just do that right now. So what's owed for the whole month by putting our $5,000 into the line of credit is $16.44 per month in interest, rather than whatever the previous number was, okay? So we lowered the interest rate from $39 something down to $16 something. So that's less than half. Now, why is this important? Because the $16.44 is equivalent to a much lower interest rate. So what is that number? Let me show you here what I'm talking about. Let me explain what I'm talking about here. This is going to blow your mind. The 30 days that you paid, if you had kept the $8,000 in there and put your $5,000 to your checking account, you would have paid 6% per year, or $39.45. But by putting down the $5,000 into the line of credit, the equivalent interest rate, because you're paying so much less, what's called the effective interest rate, and that is so critical to know this, effective interest rate, rather than whatever the paperwork tells you, is 2.5% interest. In other words, we lowered the actual interest we're paying, the effective interest rate, down to 2.5%. So if the mortgage is 4% and we lower the 2.5%, this is phenomenal. Okay, now, this can be used in other ways. So I want you to think about this for a second. If I'm going to borrow, so let's take this aside and say if I can borrow money at 6% line of credit and invest into a note or any lending at 6%, but I'm actually lowering the effective interest rate of the line of credit down to 2.5%, I'm creating a 3.5% spread, folks. Think about that for a second. Now, I'm talking about your investing, but you don't have to invest. I'm going to show you how you can use this to pay off your debt super fast. So let's go back to what I just said. If I can borrow money at 6% line of credit and invest it in something that pays me 6%, but I'm lowering the effective interest rate, my cost of money, down to 2.5%, I'm creating an immediate spread. And I have students doing this all day long. Now, you might be thinking, George, this is just $16 or $20 per month. It's nothing. Okay, wait until you see the numbers here. It is phenomenal. So let's continue here. Let's go back to Smart Sam and Regular Rob. So after 10 years of Smart Sam putting this into place and automating the whole thing, he tells the bank automatically move money from here to here, and he never has to touch it again. After 10 years, Smart Sam is mortgage free, while Regular Rob is still $251,000 in debt on his mortgage. That's the power of this. I just showed you one out of the 3 big buckets, but the one I just showed you here is really interesting.
Boom!
There you go, dude. There you go. But it's going to get better, Scott. It's going to get better here. Wait till you see some of the numbers. So, give me a second here. I think my wife is texting me like crazy, or someone is texting me. Let me just, that's my wife. Okay. So I forgot to tell her I'm on a webinar. Okay, so after 10 years in this example, Smart Sam is mortgage free. Now at this point, let me ask everyone here, and I want you to think about this question because it's such an important question. What should Smart Sam do if he's mortgage free after 10 years? So think about it for a second. Should he now save all the payments he would have paid to the mortgage, because now he doesn't have to make a mortgage payment? what should he do? And the answer really is he should refinance and take the money out and do this again. Now, I'm going to expand on that and show you the impact of what he just did right there. So let's continue here. So consider this. While the money is waiting to pay the bills, we can use it more efficiently, which allows us to pay off our debts faster. Debts could be mortgages, it could be credit cards, it could be whatever. And then once you have no more debt, you can always use it for investing by increasing your spreads like I was showing you earlier. But let's continue here. So to pay off your debts faster and increase our net worth significantly without investing, with one simple shortcut at your local bank, and it took you no more than 6 hours to learn and implement and put it on autopilot, and you'll never have to touch it again. That's it. Now, let's continue here. Each one of those strategies, again, there are so many strategies. We call them building blocks, as you'll find out, or shortcuts. Each one of them has a name, and I just showed you earlier. This one here is the one that obviously increased your net worth by 6 figures over 10 years or less. And we have students doing it we have students doing 50,000 every 2 years. We have students doing, like I said, 300,000 in 2 years. We have students doing 30,000 a year. It's just all over the board, but it's so powerful because it's all automated. And so we call this Master Sweep Account, or MSA, Master Sweep Account. Now, I want you to read this testimonial here from Andrea, one of our students. We have a private Facebook, where we interact, all the finance hackers. And I want you to read this, and I want to show you what's possible. So let's start with this testimonial here. So Andrea did this, and here's what she said. That moment you realize you need to write another check from your MSA, again, MSA is a Master Sweep account, to your mortgage. I keep thinking this is too good to be true. The MSA can't work this well. Well, it does work this well. I have been utilizing the technique for about 1.5 years. And every time I pay down the HELOC, I write another $5,000 to $10,000 check to my mortgage. Now, keep in mind, she's been using it for 1.5 years. I expect to have my $260,000 mortgage to be paid off in roughly 6 more years. We give you all the spreadsheets, everything I use to figure these things out. You get, they get all the tools for that. So let me repeat that. I expect to have my $260,000 mortgage paid off in roughly 6 more years. And did I mention I haven't changed my budget one single penny? The grocery budget didn't change. The travel budget didn't change. I still save the same amount. Somehow this MSA churns away and works for me while I sleep. Good stuff. As always, thanks to George for teaching financial hacks that contribute to financial freedom. Now, I want to say this. What should Andrea do? Now let's look at the numbers. She said she started a 1.5 years ago, and she has 6 more years to go. Again, we give you all the spreadsheets and everything for this. So altogether, in 7.5 years, she would have paid off $260,000 mortgage in 7.5 years. Let me show you what's possible, what we're talking about here. So what I did here was I did an illustration to compare Andrea's situation and her neighbor. Okay, I made up a neighbor here, and to show you what can happen by simply having this stuff here. And keep in mind, this is one building block out of many, many, many out there. So let's just focus on this one building block right now. So imagine here that Andrea is here, obviously, and her neighbor's up here, and you'll see a 30-year timeline. And we're going to break up this timeline into 7.5 years because she said she's going to be paid off in 7.5 years. So that means after 7.5 years, she's going to refinance because she's going to be paid off, and she's going to refinance. She's going to take out $260,000 tax-free because it's a refinance, right? So now she has $260,000 in her pocket. She refinanced, and she's going to do it again while her neighbor is still paying the first mortgage. After 15 years, which is again another 7.5 years, she'll be paid off. She's going to refinance. She's going to have $520,000 tax-free in her pocket while her neighbor is still paying his mortgage, and he's not even halfway through now. After 7.5 years again, so at this point we're 22.5 years into it, she's going to refinance because she would have paid it off. Now at this point, her property hasn't appreciated whatsoever. It's still the same value, and all she can refinance is $260,000. Now we know with real estate things are going to go up, but in this example, the property hasn't appreciated a single penny. So she's going to refinance. She's going to take out another $260,000. So now she has $780,000 in her pocket tax-free. And the final 7.5 years, she now has over $1 million tax-free in her pocket. And this is the time when her neighbor would have paid off his mortgage. Okay. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, a whole $1 million from one simple and single tweak out of the many shortcuts we have. Now let's go back in time. What if she actually took the 260,000 and put it into a different building block? Again, we have so many building blocks. And what if she did it again and again every time she refinanced and she put it into another building block? What would have happened? She would be millions of dollars, $6 million, $7 million ahead of her neighbor, and she will have a tax-free income for life, starting at the 15-year mark. Okay, that's how powerful this would be. Even if it starts at 30 years, it doesn't matter. The point is this: you can combine these building blocks, and they're out there for anyone to use, and none of it requires investing. That's the part that blows my mind away. Okay, and I'm showing you numbers here because these banks and these financial institutions are making money off of us. Let's use their same exact strategies to turn the tables and use floats to our advantage. And again, there are so many building blocks that we can use, and all we're doing is using the same strategies they're using against us. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing here the cost of not having this in place. So I want you to think about this for a second. What's your age? Think about your age and subtract the age you started working. So for example, in my case, I'm 49 years old, and I started working when I was 20, whatever it was, 24, whatever it is. Let's say 25, just to make, or 24. So now that's a 25-year gap where I could have easily used this. And for everyone out there, imagine you had used this. You know, if you had been working for 22.5 years, look how much money could have been just from this one building block. Imagine having all these other building blocks. That's the cost, folks. That's the cost of not having this in place. And every single one of us could have used it. Okay. So this one, let's go back to our story with Smart Sam and regular Rob. This one decision affected where Smart Sam's life looks like, and it was a simple and single tweak in the system. Smart Sam used this one same shortcut. He could have easily used it to pay off loans, car loans, credit card, whatever it is, in 1/2 to 1/3 the time. Okay. And for those people that are thinking, I don't have any debt, I just showed you what you can do with the same exact thing. So here's what I'll tell you for the people that have no debt. Listen carefully. When you have no debt and you have a line of credit, all you have to do is create good debt. How do you do that? Here's what I have my students do. They literally write a check and they fund something. It could be an income producing asset. It could be a note. It could be private lending. They fund it. And let's just say this thing is paying you 8%. Okay, I'm being so, you guys know you should be able to generate yields of 10, 12% or more, but let's just say 8%. And the line of credit is 6%. Most people will say it's a small spread, but I just showed you by using that line of credit, you are lowering the effective interest rate. You are essentially increasing your spread from 2% to like 6, 7%. And that's what I'm having my students do. And it gets more and more interesting when you use it with notes and stuff like that. But let's keep going here. So one of the many, again, we just talked about the master sweep account, and this is one of many financial shortcuts in the financial system that any of us here, anyone out there can use. They're simply there for us to reach out to and use. So that's an example of a 1 6-figure financial shortcut, and it really boils down to go down to your local bank and get a line of credit and start putting the money from checking account into your line of credit. And I walked you through the math, and now you see why I say it's easier done than said. Now let's move on to the shortcuts in the financial system. So at this point, everyone's thinking, okay, you just touched on a big one, but give us some examples of some other shortcuts you can do. Now, there are tons and tons of them. I'm going to just point out a few of them. Here's the first one, which we already talked about. I just want to mention it again. Banks make money off of your deposits while sitting your checking account doing nothing but waiting to pay bills. You can increase your net worth by 6 figures by simply knowing and using that float. Now you know what I'm talking about here. Let's look at another one. Even with hard work, inflation will always pull us backwards. But with a simple tweak at your local bank, inflation will work for you and increase your net worth automatically. Folks, I'm talking about things at your local bank here. I'm not talking about going out and doing something crazy and stuff like that. This is stuff you can do at your local bank. Here's another one. Banks use a powerful principle to increase yields, and you can easily replicate that principle in your local bank to benefit you. Here's another one. You can generate double-digit returns in your local bank account without investing by simply using this proven 200-year loophole discovered by someone that Forbes magazine called founding father of international finance. Now, let me say this. This here is such a powerful strategy and shortcut. It does not require you to invest. It can generate double-digit returns in your local bank account. I don't care what bank you use. This can generate double-digit returns if you simply understood the process, the knowledge, the shortcut itself. You don't have to put the money into any kind of crazy investments out there. Here's another one. Do you realize that the most important and powerful financial strategy for families today is only known by a few? This was actually discussed on what show was it? It was on TV and CBS News, and it was phenomenal. And they showed some families doing it around the U.S. Phenomenal stuff. Here's another one, and this was actually on CNN and very powerful. So this one here was Mitt Romney was running for president, and so let me just read this out. Do you realize that Mitt Romney paid 14.1% effective tax rate in 2011, legally a lower effective tax rate than most Americans? Most people can use the same genius strategies to generate tax-free passive income if they simply learned it. So this one here was discussed on CNN. And what was fascinating about this is that there are two people discussing it. One guy says to the other guy, that's why we have to increase taxes, income taxes on the rich. And the other guy says, you don't get it. No matter how much you increase income taxes, Mitt Romney will never have to pay more taxes using this strategy because it is so powerful. And I was so skeptical. I had to research it and stuff, but it is so fascinating. And any of us can use this. It's so ingenious, so genius. So as a company, here are the three things we do. We find and research these shortcuts. Number two, we document them and share them with our community. And number three, we're building the world's largest community of finance hackers. That's what we do. These are the three things. And all day long, we're researching, we're doing these things and sharing them with our members. So these financial shortcuts, we call them internally building blocks. Why do we call them building blocks? Because as you can tell from the diagram I used earlier, these all are blocks that work together. They can stand on their own, but you can also integrate them together so that this way they are more synergistical and they give you better results even. So that's very powerful. So that's what happens with building blocks. For example, here's one of them, the Master Sweep account, the one I just talked about. You'll see here it says $100,000 plus block. This is again over time. None of this stuff works overnight, folks. This is stuff you put one time and you let it just work automatically in the background. So over time, this is a $100,000 block, like I showed you. Here's another one, the financing system. It's a $100,000 block, again, over time. Insurance arbitrage is a $500,000 block. Inflation arbitrage is $250,000 block. Again, this one is using inflation to make it work for you. And again, we have tons and tons more of this stuff. So as a member, when you first log in, here's what you're going to see. You're going to see a whole bunch of building blocks. You're going to see some that are called integration blocks, where you integrate different blocks. Like in this example, you have a family bank, family insurance, and family office. You integrate these three things. These are all different blocks. Again, we have so many building blocks, and we're just integrating them. So that's a high-level example of other financial shortcuts other than the one I just shared with you before.
George, you got a question here from somebody.
Okay.
Logan, if your initial line of credit balance is zero, how can you transfer $5,000 cash into a line of credit, make the line of credit balance negative by $5,000? That's not the case, though, right, George?
Yeah, can you read that again? I didn't.
Yeah.
Say that again.
If your initial line of credit balance is zero,
yeah,
how can you transfer $5,000 cash into a line of credit, make the line of credit balance negative by $5,000.
So all you have to do is when you first start your line of credit, you have no debt on it. You simply write a check. When you write a check and you
pay your bills,
pay something off, or pay your bills, or you fund a note, or you pay down your mortgage, now you are $5,000 in debt. So you created the debt by doing that.
Yep.
So hopefully everyone got that. Great question.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's move on to, am I going too fast, or are we good on time?
Good. You're good, man. You're good. You're on pace. You're good.
Perfect. So let's talk about what others are saying about Finance Academy. So Rita is a realtor, incredible realtor in Southern California, in LA, actually, in Pasadena to be exact. And so here's what she said. She said, as an extremely busy realtor in Southern California, I've gone through more courses than I can count, always trying to stay one step ahead of the game when it comes to investing and saving money for my family and clients. Then I was introduced to Finance Academy. Talk about brilliant. Wow, I'm now 100 plus steps ahead of the game. This is by far the easiest, most powerful and unique program I have ever seen, and it's all in one place, which is great for my busy lifestyle. The step-by-step actionable strategies that you, let me say something about the step-by-step actionable strategies. So here's how we do everything. We give you all these building blocks, and each building block has a learning section and a checklist and what to do, the steps to implement it. So this way you allocate up to 6 hours. Again, the 6 hours is broken up into smaller chunks to learn, to get the checklist, and to get the step-by-step, and then you implement the whole thing within 6 hours. You would have learned and implemented. So that's what she's talking about, step-by-step actionable strategies, and that's what she's talking about. And once you're done, you move on to the next one, and you place this on autopilot, and if there's any paperwork, whatever, you put in your filing cabinet or your drawer, and just let it work in the background. So again, actionable strategies that you can implement immediately or at your own pace. They are so easy, anyone can understand them or do them. I stress a lot about my family's financial future, on and on. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Here's Mike. Again, we have a lot of people that, we all use Facebook. We have a private Facebook group. And here's what Mike said. He said, I just got financed last week. I love what I've seen so far. The best part is that one payment from the MSA to my mortgage will easily save me more than the cost of the whole course. Plus, there's a lot more to do. And that's really important to us, is that this pays for itself within the first 2-3 months. As long as you follow what we're talking, and all you have to do is just implement one building block, and you'll start seeing results immediately. Now, this is not something that's going to be like overnight riches or anything like that. This is something you put on autopilot and you let it work over time. Here's what Todd said. The family bank and the MSA. Now, these are two different building blocks. Concepts have changed our financial lives. Recapturing interest that would be lost has accelerated our debt payoff. Using strategic debt has helped me finance a new business venture that generates great passive income. Here's Patrick. George, your financial education should be required in every school. We have tons of these things, tweaks and savings, whatever. Mike says, life changing. I think it's the first thing to say. Not only are the building blocks amazing, but I feel the biggest game changer is how it has changed our thinking. It has allowed us to be in a position to help others just with our knowledge. How do you eat an elephant? How do you change the world? Help one person at a time. This has put probably all of us in a position to really change our world. Thank you, George. Thank you, team. Sandor is a coach in high school and great guy. And here's what he said. I was able to pay off $30,000 in debt in 1 year. It was supposed to take 6 years by using a combination of family bank, MSA, credit card float, and our financing system. So he used 4 different building blocks here to do this. Every time I feel like I fully understand the concept, someone posts something or shares another way to benefit from that concept. The depths of the strategies are mind-blowing. Again, we all become finance hackers, and we're all helping each other elevate our games. And so people are learning these things and then finding new ways to tweak things and sharing them with the community. So let's talk about common questions at this point. People here are at this point have a lot of common questions. So I'm going to address the common questions that always come up. The first one, which is my favorite, is how come I haven't heard about this before? And here's what I'll tell you: because no one has paid a commission on this stuff. For example, when
amen to that. As an ex-banker, we never got taught. We got paid zilch to do anything like this, so we never were told about it. Amen. True story. Worked for JP Morgan Chase Bank. Okay.
That's awesome. So, and so if you just tell someone, go down to your local bank and do 1, 2, 3, no one's getting paid a commission for that. That's why you haven't heard about it. And that's why we're sharing this stuff with you. And I have to go back to that lady that asked me the question in Palm Springs. And I have to tell you, that question really changed the trajectory of my view on finances. And all of this came about because of that question. I wanted to research and find out what can people do, because a lot of people are moving backwards and they have no idea what to do, and they're jumping from one day they're doing this, one day this, one day this. So I decided, let me research this stuff. And sure enough, that question really changed not just my life, but a lot of people's lives that are using this. Fascinating stuff. Here's the next common question. I don't invest. Can I still use this? The answer is absolutely 100%. You don't have to invest to do this. Okay. Other question is, I am an investor, whatever type of investor, can I use this? The answer is yes. This will actually enhance all your returns. So let's just take a note investor, for example. And I'm talking note investors because of Scott and all his students. Whatever your yield is, let's just say your yield is 12%, okay? By using this, you can enhance your yields. So now you can take it to 14, 15, 16, 17%, 18% yields, all by using interesting tweaks like this. It's fascinating stuff. I just showed you one way to increase your spreads, okay? Just imagine that. There's so many more things. I need an income right now or very soon. Can I use this? The answer is no. And I want you to really listen to this. If you have no income right now, you don't have any passive or active income, this is not going to help you. This is not an income producing strategy. What this does is it increases your wealth, your net worth, but also generates income in the future. This is not about right now. So I want to be very specific about that, because I don't want someone joining and saying, you said there will be income immediately. The answer is no. If you want income immediately, there's something called a JOB. Go find a job right now, get situated, and then you can start implementing this. We always have students, like in high school and universities that are trying to like use this, and I say, no, don't use it. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help you. So make sure you have income right now, because this is not meant to replace your income in any way right now until the future, and help you build your net worth and your wealth. The next common question is, I am debt free. I don't have any debt whatsoever. Can I use it? The answer is absolutely 100%. Other question is, I have debt or I have a lot of debt. Can I use this? Absolutely 100%. What resources will I need for this? Scott, we mentioned, we took every question out there and we just narrowed it down to these key ones here. The next question is, what resources will I need for this? Really, you need two things. One is a smart device like your tablet, your computer, your smartphone, whatever it is that has an internet connection. And that's one. The second one, you need 6 hours per month in as little as 30-minute increments. Again, you can break out your 30-minute increments any way you want, but it adds up to 6 hours. And that's 6 hours at most. Some of these building blocks are 4 hours. So again, the 6 hours or 4 hours or whatever it is a total of the learning and implementation altogether, and then you put it on autopilot. So let's talk about next steps. So I'd like to invite you to seriously consider becoming a finance hacker and join our community, okay? And let me share with you what the steps are after you join. So for the people that decide to join, as a member, you're gonna get access to these building blocks. The second thing is, your first building block is the one that's called Start Here, and you go through that building block, and it tells you the big picture of the whole program, okay, and the sequence on which to implement things. Step 3: dedicate 6 hours per month in as little as 30-minute increments, and learn and implement each building block one at a time, and then set it on autopilot. Now, here's what happens with almost every single person that joins. They say this is like potato chips. Once you start, you cannot stop. So we end up having people implementing 3 and 4 building blocks per month, and that's perfect, okay? But they say we cannot stop. We have to keep implementing, and that's good for you. But all we're asking for the average person who's busy, dedicate 6 hours per month, not per week, per month, okay? Step 4, watch your finances move you faster towards your financial goals and leap ahead of most people as you progress. People will be blown away by your knowledge. And I stress that because it's happening where everyone starts seeing results. They then get their family members doing that. And next thing you know, they're the superhero in the family because they're getting all the family doing these building blocks. And we see that happening so often. And people are loving it. Step 5, we keep contributing more building blocks over time for you to implement as we discover them. And that's it. These are the 5 steps for the people that decide to join as members. Now, with this program, you don't need to track your budget. You don't need to invest in distressed real estate. Now, keep in mind, I'm a big proponent of investing, but this program doesn't require you to invest in anything. You don't need to invest in stocks or bonds. You don't need to invest in anything that requires time commitment. You don't need to sell products or services. This is built so that it doesn't require any of this stuff. As a finance member, you receive all the building blocks we talked about. So here are a few of them just as a reminder. As you'll see here, the ones that say fully automated, that means you do them one time and they're all actually fully automated. But the ones here on the strip on the right, it says which ones require your local bank account. I'm just going to show you a few of them here because we have tons of them. The master sweep account, the one we just went over, this will help you pay off your debt in 1/3 of the time, increase your net worth by $100,000 in 10 years or less. I showed you the numbers. It's significantly more if you know what you're doing. And you get to use the power of floats. Here's the next one, the financing system, discovered 200 years ago by what Forbes magazine called the person founding father of international finance. This I was so skeptical about. It took me 2 years to prove that it actually works. I kept saying it just cannot work. And this will generate double-digit returns, or can generate double-digit returns without investing. Again, this is another $100,000 building block, and this again is at your local bank. Here's another one, insurance arbitrage. Use the power of arbitrage, increase your net worth by $500,000 or more. Very powerful. This you implement, you plant a seed one time in your filing cabinet. It's a few single pieces of paper. You put them in your filing cabinet, and once a year, you take them out and you compare 2 numbers, and I tell you what to do if one is higher or the other one is lower, whatever it is. Again, this is fully automated. This is not at your local bank. You just want to make sure you know that. The next one is self-insurance building block. Again, we're going to use the same risk shifting methods that insurance companies use. You pay a lot less money, but you end up with better and more insurance. Now, the reason I really like this is because every single one of us on this call, every single one of us is paying insurance. And the average American is paying 7 to 10% of their income for all kinds of insurance. 7 to 10% that they'll never come back. How can we make that work for us? So it turns out there's a strategy with insurance companies that they use called reinsurance. It is so powerful and so simple, you end up paying less, but you end up with more and better insurance, okay? And this can be done at your local bank. It is super powerful strategy. Again, we have many, many more building blocks, and here are some of them. You get all of these building blocks. You also get access to the private online community of finance hackers, where we're all on the same journey, helping each other, and we have a lot of people contributing, a lot of new ideas, people telling each other, you use this bank if you live in, for example, Austin, use this bank, it actually makes you do this and this is even better. So we have people contributing a lot of amazing ideas. Now at this point, here's what I want you to think about. If you were to implement just one of these many building blocks and you set it on autopilot and you never touch it again, and you can increase your net worth by tens of thousands of dollars, if not over $100,000. Just one single building block. Okay, that's all I ask you to do. Implement it within the first 30 days. In fact, the first week if you can, and start seeing results. So on our website right now, our membership dues on our website are $1,297 per year. Okay. We're going to do something special tonight. So let me move on, give you what the bonuses are, and then we're going to do something very powerful. So the bonuses for taking action today are the following. Now, this gentleman, his name is Ed. Ed was a teacher in I think Houston, and he quit being a teacher and then ended up getting to a point where he never had to work again. And now he travels all around the world for close to nothing. I interviewed him. He gave me the exact websites, exactly how he does it, how he gets all these deals. And I have to tell you, it is fascinating. So I implemented one of his things, and I was able to travel quite a bit. And I texted him, I'm like, Ed, I just traveled to so-and-so place for $50. And I get a text back from him saying, you paid too much. I mean, this guy literally travels all over the world for close to nothing, or sometimes nothing. And he's always around the world traveling. So you guys get access to that recording and all the websites he uses. You also get access to my 3 best-selling books, Wealthy Code, Banker's Code, and Debt Millionaire. You also get access to this course. I literally I reached out to Willie Hooks. This guy's an incredible guy. And I loved this course. And I said, I have to license this and give it to all our members. So this course is called Mastering the Inner Game of Money. Very powerful course. It's about rewriting your new money story. It's about overcoming limiting beliefs about money and unlocking your potential to tap into greater wealth and financial security. Again, this is a bonus that people will get access to immediately. Now, I also have a mega bonus that's coming up. And this is something we did as a test. And it was extremely popular. We did it 3 times this year, and here's what it is. Again, these are 2 optional tickets. Again, they're optional. You don't have to come to it, but we put together a 3-day live event where we take this information to a whole new level. It's called Hacking the Financial Matrix, and you learn how the system works and how it's moving us backwards and what to do above and beyond what we're learning with these building blocks. So over here, you learn some of the most advanced Jedi financial strategies that only bankers know. And here's what you get. And this 3-day live event, again, is very optional. You don't have to come to it. You learn to see, beat, and escape the financial matrix. You learn new powerful strategies that are simple, low risk, and you can implement immediately. You can meet other professionals on the same journey. You can tap into even greater wealth and financial security. Again, this is 3 full days of content, and we go through so much interesting stuff. And the idea is that you can take everything you're learning in the building blocks to a whole new level and see what we call the financial matrix. Again, this is valued at $1,997, but these are 2 optional tickets and are valid for 12 months. You don't have to come to it, okay? We're going to throw it in as a bonus here. You'll see in a minute. So at this point, everyone's thinking, this is incredible stuff, but I have one of 3 concerns, or maybe more of these concerns. One is money. I don't have the time, or I'm doubtful. I don't believe this works. Okay, so let's address each one of those things. Let's start with money. So here's what I want you to realize. How long have you been using a checking account? Okay, how long have you been using? How long has been inflation working against you? For as long as possible. So you're paying for it indirectly due to lack of knowledge. And so right now, as you're listening to this, you are losing money to financial institutions, the government, and others by simply not implementing this. Okay. The fact that you're using a checking account or a savings account or credit card or whatever it is, you're playing inside the financial system. So you will pay for this either way. You're going to pay for it the expensive way, which is what most people are doing, and we've been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, or you can do it the cheaper way and learn the system and make it work for you. It's a simple choice. It's going to be a lot cheaper by understanding this and implementing it. It turns out the average American is losing over $250,000 over their career to financial institutions by not implementing this information. So we addressed the money thing. You're already paying for it the expensive way. So let's talk about time. So I always hear this, I'm so busy, I don't have time, okay? So we built this from the ground up to be self-paced training. You can do at your own pace from the comfort of your own home. All you need are 2 things. One is a smart device, your phone or tablet or whatever it is. And second is just 6 hours per month that can be used anytime in as little as 30-minute increments during the weekend or an evening, whatever. Just small chunks of time and be able to learn it and implement it and get to the next building block. We're giving you a step-by-step 90-day roadmap to your financial happiness. It's a very powerful roadmap. You'll see it over here. And all you have to do is just follow the exact plan, which you all have access to. So time, we did that. Let's talk about doubt. At this point, you might be thinking, well, I don't believe this works. Okay, now I'm going to tell you, I'm the biggest skeptic on the planet because when I develop software like work on Quicken that is used by most people out there in the world, I have to know what I'm doing. I have to work on formulas. I have to work on stuff. I have to prove everything. So I'm by nature very skeptical. So here's what I'm telling you. I'm giving you all the spreadsheets that I use to prove this stuff out. And go in there, check it out. If you're not blown away, ask for your money back. And I'm going to read this out for you. If for any reason you aren't blown away and satisfied with our advanced training, just let us know at the end of 15 days, and we'll refund you 100% of your purchase price. Again, 15 days, you should be able to go through the whole thing. Just look through it and tell us yay or nay. That's it. So you have 15 days to decide risk-free. If you decide this is not something for me, that's completely fine. Okay. So I addressed the three big concerns. Money, you're already paying for it indirectly, the expensive way. Time, it's extremely flexible. You don't have to be at any certain place. It's all from your phone and anytime you want. And doubt, we give you easy way to check this out, and you have 15 days to go in and say yay or nay. Now at this point, again, let's go back to annual membership. It's $1,297 per year. But what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to change that to $797 per year. And that's a limited time offer for tonight. And here's the other thing, is as we progress and we build more building blocks, we're adding them into the membership so that you guys have access to it. You don't have to pay extra for it. We're going to give the bonuses I talked about for the first 23 people. Okay, for the first 23 people on the call. I see we have quite a bit of people here, and it's live streaming. And all of this is available online right now. So to take advantage of this, go ahead and register at the link you see on the screen, financelive.com/Carson. Now, finance is quirky name. It's FYNANC, finance, FYNANC, and then live.com/Carson. And go ahead and take advantage of this if you choose to be a member and start using this information immediately. So with that, Scott,
boom.
What do you think?
I love it, man. I love it. You're totally right on everything here. The banks are not paying you to understand this, and you're paying for it one form or fashion otherwise out there. We did have a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
Great promo, by the way. Appreciate you doing that for everybody. Alex asked the question, if you are already higher net worth and have more to work with, will your value in the program increase and provide bigger yields?
I'm sorry, say that again. I'm sorry.
If you're already higher net worth,
okay,
and have more to work with, will your value in the program increase and provide bigger yields?
I'm not getting the question here. I have to read it. I'm not understanding the second part. So if he's already a high net worth person, is that what he's saying?
Yeah, and if he's putting more into it, more money into it with his higher net worth, will it exponentially compound basically his returns?
Yes, it is. What will happen is, so there's something. Yeah, the answer is yes. For a person who is investing right now, so let me say something first. So there's clarity here. For the people who want to invest, use this with investments. I would recommend you come to the 3-day live event. That's the optional one. But the reason we have it optional is because this doesn't depend on investing. But if you do want to use it with investing, I would recommend you come to the live event so you can see what's called a yield stacking strategy. So let me just give you an overview of this. A yield stacking strategy, if you listen to the word, the name itself, yield stacking, there's a way to stack yields so that this way, whatever your existing yield from any investment is, you can start stacking in some yields that will improve your yield significantly. So what we do is, and we cover this in the 3-day, again, the 3 days for people who want to take this to the next level. But based on the question, I would highly recommend you come to the 3-day, even though it's optional, but given your question, I would say show up there. It will take everything that's inside the membership and tie it all really nicely. The things that are on the membership right now, none of it requires investing. But if you do want to invest, come to the 3-day, and this is where we start integrating some of the investments. No matter what asset you use, we'll show you how you can do yield stacking. So the answer is yes, it will increase your yields.
Nice. Nice. Another question from Lisa. She asks, what's the difference between the information in the course and the books? And what's the difference between the 3 books?
Okay, the 3 books are really focused mostly on investing. And I wrote these prior to this information. So that the books are mostly for investing side. This is more what we call finance hacking, which is very different.
Yeah. She has a question. What if the bank only gives you a small line of credit, like $1,000? How feasible is it to still pay off a bigger debt?
Okay, great question. So let me give you. So you actually don't need a big line of credit. So let me share with you why. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your monthly take-home amount, whatever that is. Let's say it's 5,000. You don't want to have more than twice that, okay, or 1.5 or twice. So let's just say your take-home is 5,000. You don't want to have a line of credit more than twice that, so 10,000 at most. And the reason is this. So you want to lower. Listen carefully to the words I'm using here because I'm being very strategic. You want to lower your effective interest rate so low, so that even if, let's just say you go to Wells Fargo, I'm going to give you very specific banks here. If you go to Wells Fargo and they gave you $20,000 line of credit, but they give it to you at 12%, which is ridiculous, you can lower your effective interest rate down to 1% or 2% by simply putting a little bit more debt than what you're taking home in terms of paycheck. So what we do is we give you a spreadsheet to calculate how much to use, but it will never be more than twice. Now, alternatively, let's just say you have a line of credit that's $500,000 and you're getting paid $5,000. If you were to put the $5,000 into the $500,000 line of credit, it doesn't make a dent. Your HELOC interest rate or your line of credit interest rate is so much, you haven't made a dent, it doesn't have a big impact. What we want to do is make a big impact on your effective interest rate. So we have you use a smaller line of credit, no more than twice your take home. And that's the key there. Again, we'll give you the spreadsheet to calculate these things so you know exactly how much your line of credit should be.
Good stuff there. We had another question here a little earlier on, but Hassan asked the question, does the master sweep account for business line of credit work if we don't have enough equity in the home for a HELOC?
Yeah, the answer is yes. So let me expand your question. It's a great question. The answer is yes, but let me make it even more interesting. If you have a business, you can now have 2 master sweep accounts, one for each, one for personal, one for business, and it makes things a lot more interesting. Now, if you don't have a business, that's fine. This still works, obviously, and works really well. Now, going back to the question, you can get a line of credit that's not necessarily backed by real estate. You can get, we give you different ways of getting lines of credit, but it can be under business. The answer is yes.
Good stuff there. And
I just have to tell you this, for the people that have a business, you can have 2 of these things and you can crush it. You can do some amazing things. And I'll give you one example just to sort of whet your appetite with what our students are doing. So if you are, so let's just say we have a lot of people that are students in common, Scott, with you.
Yep.
A lot of your note students, what they're doing is they're buying notes, and so now they have yields, more income stream coming in. What happened is, let's just say they start with $5,000 paycheck in our example. Now they have more income coming in. So as you have more income coming in from the notes, you now have a bigger line of credit and you are moving money faster. And so what happens in your system is now you have more cash flow coming in, therefore you can have more lines of credit, therefore you can fund more notes. And it has an exponential growth, and it is fascinating when people understand how to use it with note investing. Again, in the course that they're getting right now, we don't go into that. It is only in the 3-day that we cover some of that stuff, but it's very, very powerful stuff.
Oh, yeah. We had Chris Aveni on here earlier, who's like, oh my gosh, this stuff works like crazy, who's a student. Definitely a couple other people are using it. Philip asked, when and where is the 3-day event? I don't think you had a date on there.
Well, yeah, these are, we just, the next one will be in LA, Los Angeles, but we're going to have them around the country. Next year, we're only going to have 4. And we limit the number of people in there to 120, and the reason is because I don't like to have these big events with 500 gazillion people. Anyone that's taken my training will tell you I like to be very intimate. I like to make sure we answer questions, and we like to give people very specific things to do. So so it's gonna be, we're gonna have 4 of them next year, and when you register, we'll update you on the locations. But the one I know of is in February, Los Angeles. I don't know when exactly in February, but you'll be updated on that information.
And one of the great things too, guys, George and we work on different things, so we'll be actually sending emails out as well, letting everybody know when the dates are for it as well to our audience and things like that for you to take advantage of that too. But look, between now and February, gives you some great reading, some things to put immediately to work, right, George? Start taking it now.
You're exactly correct. They're getting access to these online modules. Start implementing immediately. And here's what's going to happen. When you first log in, you're going to see a whole bunch of building blocks, and you're going to wonder, are these connected? And as you implement them, you're going to see some results, but you're wondering in the back of your mind, are these connected? When you come to the 3-day live event, again, it's optional. You don't have to come to it. You're going to see the whole world of finance completely different, and they're all actually connected. And just like, the movie in The Matrix, when you start seeing the green stuff, people start seeing things in a whole different way. And they start seeing how these all are connected. Very, very elegant solution.
Good stuff. We've got kind of a weird question. Do you have to be part of the program to do the live course, or can you do the live course without the program?
You do have to be part of the course, and here's why. Because we actually show you how these things are connected. So we will be referring back to some of the building blocks that you already have access to, and we'll show you how they connect and how to integrate them in the most elegant ways. So you have to be a member to show up to the live event.
Yeah, that's like, hey, I just want to show up, but I'm not going to read anything or understand anything I'm talking about.
Yeah, you'll be definitely lost if you show up without having access to this, because we'll keep referring back to these building blocks.
Yeah, like Alex, like he said, you've got to be part of the membership there. There's not a ticket for the live event by itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, all right. Any other questions out there, guys? Pull that back up before we wrap it up there, George.
Sorry about that. So
no, it's okay. It's all right. No problem at all, brother. Let's see here.
What?
Are any of the events in the East Coast? Or are they all on the West Coast?
Honestly, I don't really know. I just show up, but I do know one is in LA, and one I think is in Dallas. I'm not sure, but again, don't quote me. I don't really know. I kid you not. I literally just show up when time is there, and I should have checked before doing this call, but yeah. So I don't know if we're doing anything in the East Coast. I'll again, when people register, they'll know. They'll let them know.
Good stuff there. Good stuff. Let's see what you know.
Scott, one thing I want to say really quick. It's amazing to me how someone's question will have this huge impact on your life. And I want to go back to that lady that asked me the question, because I never end up following up with her. When she asked me that question and I laughed, I felt so crappy because I really thought she was joking. But out of that one question comes all of this. And to me, it is so amazing that that question is impacting so many people. That we have well over 1,000. I think we have something like 1,500 members now, and everyone is contributing. Everyone is helping each other. We have people from all walks of life, from from high tech to low tech to people from all walks of life helping each other. And it's fascinating to see what's possible. And I keep going back to that one lady and the expression on her face, because here's what it boils down to for me. We can all wonder about things right now, and but there's nothing worse than getting to a point in your life where it's too late, and getting to a point where you look back and you're like, all these years I could have done this and this and this and this. Why then it's too late now? And that's the part that you and I, we can help people, but we cannot give them time. And when I saw that expression on her face, the fear, the desperation, I realized, shoot, she knows she's running out of time. And that's what happened to her. That's why she was so desperate. And I tell people, give this a try, folks. You have 15 days to check it out. It's honestly the investment is so low compared to the benefit, and you get this back on first 2, 3, 4 payments on just one building block. And so I tell people, you are now losing money as you sit here listening to this by not implementing this, because the system is set up to move us backwards. And ask yourself, if you had implemented the building block by itself when you first started working, what would have happened? And so, I can go on and on, but I tell people, give this thing a try. It's phenomenal. And I give you guys all the spreadsheets to see the math. And anyone that's like me, skeptical, please go through the spreadsheets. You would so appreciate this stuff.
Right. You can see that you've got, I'm just going here, mentor students only. You've got a couple dates on the calendar for 2019 already on finance.com. I just pulled that up to take a look at it. But guys, this is a amazing offer that George is offering up there. Great stuff. As always, you do deliver. No questions asked, my friend. Whoops. There you are for you. And once again, everybody, he's giving you the 15 days to take a look at it. If it makes sense for you, great. If it doesn't, no questions asked, right, George?
Exactly. And yeah, it's and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. This will be like chips, eating chips. You will not be able to stop. You're going to go through all the building blocks, and it's very interesting.
Exactly. Good stuff there.
Any other questions?
Allison, check out finance.com. Once you get signed up, you've got multiple options to attend next year. It doesn't have to be just the one in January, just the one in February. Out there, you've got the options throughout the year, the 4 big events throughout the year. You said you've got probably one in Dallas. It's just not on your schedule right yet, but
yeah. So I don't want anyone to quote me, because I promise you, I literally just I have my team set these things up. Again, here's the website again, financelive.com/Carson, financelive.com/Carson. That's the only place you can get this special offer. On our main website, it's going to be $12.97. So please make sure you go to this link, because we've had people go to the other link in the past and they're freaking out. $12.97. It becomes a nightmare to undo the whole thing. So please.
Yeah. So once again, I put it in the chat rule again for anybody just joined us there late. If you're watching this on Facebook, I just changed it in the description. I also put it in the comments below if you're watching on the Facebook Live. And then if you're watching this as a replay on our videos, I'll put the link is actually in the description on the video as well.
Excellent.
Good stuff, George.
Well, thanks, Scott. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everything you're doing. You're changing a lot of lives, and you had a lot of great speakers there. And it's always good seeing you, man. And you know what? I have to tell you, I loved your music when you were first playing this.
Just having fun in the office. Crank the music up.
Can I challenge you on something really quick? I know it's late.
Yeah.
I want you to sing that song. You're loving it.
The final countdown.
That's awesome.
It's the final countdown. All right, guys. That will wrap it up for this evening. I will not do that for you when you're in Austin here in a couple weeks, okay? Yeah. Have a great Thanksgiving, George. Appreciate everything, bud.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate you. Thanks, everyone, and take care.
Have a good evening, everybody. And that will wrap it up for the final bonus session of Note Camp 6, everybody. Have a great evening. Go out, make something happen, and take advantage of this special offer. Like you said, normally $1,200. You can get it for $797. 15-day, check it. Not 5 days, because we know what you'll all be doing 5 days. You'll be on Sunday, and the cat's like, oh, I ate too many leftovers. But this way, you've got a couple weeks to go out. Check it out. Start checking, looking into it like, oh, this makes sense, and take advantage. So otherwise, guys, we'll see you guys all at the top. Bye, everybody. All right, George, I will see you later, my friend.